So now, focus now to an issue that affects every Nigerian is the persistent fuel price hikes. It has sent shockwaves across the country. And just this week, the price of petrol soared between 855 naira to 897 naira per litre, a substantial increase from the previous range of, about 568 naira to 617 naira. Now, while the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPCL Limited, insists that these prices are still subsidized, the real cost to everyday Nigerians has become unbearable.
Now, while the NNPC insists that Nigeria needs to move toward market-based pricing to eliminate fuel queues and foster competition, labor unions like the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, the TUC, have expressed outrage, accusing the government of betrayal, with NLC stating that these hikes go against previous agreements made during minimum wage negotiations with the president. So, where does the blame truly lie is the question. Are fuel marketers inflating prices? Is the government failing to manage the markets effectively? Or is this a failure of structural reforms? And what role does labor play in protecting the interest of Nigerian workers?
All right. So joining us today to help unpack these complexities, we first of all have Mr. Benson Opa, is the head of Department Information for the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC. We also have Mr. Bola Tinubu. He's an economist and he has insights on the broader economic impact of these price hikes. And also joining us in the studio is Ilerioluwa Oladipupo. She's a writer and copy editor at SBM Intelligence. And so, lady and gentlemen, you're welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you. And good
My
morning.
pleasure.
All right, let's get started, shall we? I'm going to start with Mr. Benson Opa. I understand that you're pressed for time, so we just want to quickly rush through your questions and let you, go off because we understand it's a Saturday morning, but we appreciate you for being here. Now, the NLC has strongly condemned the recent price hikes, calling them a betrayal of previous agreements with the government. Can you explain what these agreements were and why the NLC believes that the government has not kept its word?
Well, let me start by saying that Mr. President gave us two options, which we described as the devil's alternatives. Either take what we want to give to you, or we give you what you want, 250,000 naira as minimum wage, but to raise the pump price of PMS to between 1,500 naira and 2,000 or even 2,500 naira. At that point, one of our leaders interjected and said, but Mr. President, you have since removed fuel subsidy. I mean, so what is this talk all about? To which he responded, said, if you do not allow me to go to the whole hog. Okay. So even as Mr. Abdulaziz, Mr. President's senior special assistant on the print media, has issued a denial, I want to let you know, and Nigerians, that what we told you was nothing but the truth. But the issue goes beyond the minimum wage. The issue affects the entire spectrum of the Nigerian society, from the floor to the roof. The first wave of fuel subsidy, May, June, July last year, raised costs across the board by over 500% for manufacturing, for all manner of businesses, for transportation, for rent, for education, for health. After that, government came with this policy of devaluation, massive devaluation of the naira, that shot the exchange rate from 300 to 1,900, stabilizing now at 1,600. That also had an effect on energy tariffs, and energy tariffs were raised by 250%. Government also went on to raise interest rate to 26.5%, presently at 26.75%. Inflation rate jumped up first to 37.3, now 34.1. Food inflation rose to 41%. These were direct consequences of subsidy removal. They badly done job because Mr. President didn't deal with the criminal content of subsidy. He said chose to deal with the victims. Had he dealt with the criminal content, these issues wouldn't even have arisen. So that happened, and at the time Nigerians are about adjusting their lives to the new normal. This new shock treatment has come in. So this matter goes beyond the national minimum wage or betrayal. It is the massive dislocation. It's about the massive dislocation and disorientation of the Nigerian people and the accompanying alienation and disillusionment, discontent. These are the issues. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Upa, we also wanted to know, now the NLC has called for the total reversal of the price hike. However, the government doesn't seem to be shifting. In fact, the president was noted as saying that he had to take hard decisions. Now, how does the NLC intend to respond to this stance by the government?
First and foremost, there are those I call in the school of right-wing market fundamentalism, whatever that means to people's ears, who believe that Mr. President is taking the right decisions. But quite unfortunately, no matter how right these decisions are, they do not seem to negatively affect those who have access to our treasury. These decisions continue to negatively affect the generality of the helpless Nigerians. So the question from us has been, what is the need for us? What is the need for the ordinary Nigerian? Why is it that these decisions don't negatively affect them? Like for instance, yeah, Mr. President had need of a yacht.
So, sir, the question...
He got one. He had need of an executive limo. He got one. I got you. He had need of a brand new jet plane. He got one without hassle. Now, why would these painful decisions always affect to the exclusion of the? How do you know that the government is not shaken by our concerns? How do you know that government is not shaken by the outrage of Nigerians?
Mr. Benson,
how do you know?
Mr. Benson, giving all that you just reiterated now, and giving the NLC stands that this administration, the Tinubu-led administration, and President Tinubu has, not held up the side of the bargains when it comes to the minimum wage negotiations from several months. What then is the next step for the NLC? Is there a strike looming?
I'll directly respond to that. The policy decisions of the government do not affect labor members to the exclusion of other society members. So the primary response resides with the people who feel the pains and trauma of these decisions. However, on the part of organized labor and in pursuance of its obligation, self-imposed obligation to defend, fight for the vulnerable in the society, it will meet, its appropriate organs will meet and take the decisions that they deem fit. But as I said earlier, the responsibility resides with every Nigerian who does not feel at ease with this extreme market policies. Okay. We have seen that across the world, across the Western capitals, from Paris to London to Berlin, and even closer home here in Africa. We've seen Kenya unraveling. We've seen even Ghana protest against certain neoliberal policies. So almost rests on that. Did you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
did.
we do. Well, many thanks, sir. We appreciate you for taking out the time today to have this conversation with us. And we appreciate you for coming on and being with us this morning. Once again, many thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. That's Mr. Benson Opa there. He is the head of information at NLC. That's the Nigeria Labour Congress. We switch gears now to Mr. Bola Tinubu, economist who's also live with us.
Mr. Bola, thank you very much for being patient with us. Mr. Bola, please, could you give us a breakdown of, especially for the viewers, of what the long-term economic consequences of these price hikes will be, particularly on inflation, unemployment, and also high household spending?
Well, we've had a taste of what it will look like by virtue of what we have seen with inflationary pressure since last year. Definitely is going to exert a pressure on what we currently have as people are trying to pass on their additional cost, their increased cost, onto the cost of the services and goods that they also provide. So that is what we're going to have going forward by virtue of this increase in energy costs. Energy is a critical cost component of the provision of goods and services in the economy. So that will be the effect. How we now manage things in the medium term, in the medium to the long term, is what will determine how everything will eventually play out on the headline inflation.
Now, let me come to the studio here because we have Ms. Oladipupo, Ilerioluwa Oladipupo. He just talked about, Mr. Bola Tinubu just talked about how this would, affect over all the economic productivity. And we've seen price of bus fares in just less than 24 hours double, and even in some cases
don't
100%.
don't forget.
Yes, and haircuts as well. And so, how will it trickle down to household spending, but most importantly, the savings of Nigerians?
All right. So thank you for having me. To start with, are Nigerians still saving?
Good question.
Good question.
Because when you look at, just as the previous speaker just spoke, if you look at the income of most Nigerians are just struggling to survive. They are just about, let's get ourselves to feed and transport ourselves. So with transportation costs, just as I have said, we've seen more than 50% increase, especially here in Lagos. And so with that happening, it's going to reduce the purchasing power of households. And when purchasing power is reduced, it stifles the economy, because reduced economic activities, takes a toll on the economy, and people cannot spend on any other thing aside from essential. In fact, that essential is just food, because health is also being affected. Many people, and at SBM Intelligence, we did a report that talked about, we saw how many people are not even taking care of their health because they cannot afford to do so. All they are earning is just to cater for feeding and transportation costs. So it's definitely going to affect the purchasing power of households.
Hand to mouth, apparently.
Sure.
I want to come to Mr. Balon here again. Mr. Balon, now regarding the government's claims to be doing what is necessary for the people, now there seems to be a certain, I don't want to use the word stubbornness, but they are sticking to their guns regarding the price hike. The president came out to say that he's making hard decisions for the benefit of the people. What exactly are we not seeing, perhaps, that the government is trying to make us see regarding these price hikes and other increases in prices? What is their plan? What is the structure of what they're trying to do? What is the future, if there is one, regarding these methods?
Okay, there's typically a problem when we say we are leading, but nobody is following. The essence of leadership is that there are people who are following where you are taking them to. So there's a bit of a disconnect right there. And government need to come out and be a little bit more transparent, especially in the space of this oil and gas matter. I'll give you a number of examples. A few years ago, the Minister of State for Petroleum, who is also a board member of NNPC, after NNPC had told us that, oh, this is the consumption of PMS in the country, the guy said he doesn't believe in the numbers. That was Mr. Timipre Silva. So where a minister cannot even validate the consumption figure in his own ministry, there is a problem. Under the current scarcity, at the point in time, government said it was thunderstorm that was affecting the offloading or from vessel transloading of product that was part of why we had scarcity. Only for them a couple of weeks after to say, oh, it was because we are owing the people we've been buying this white product from. And therefore, it is becoming some sort of challenges for us to meet our obligations and to get our supply of product. The same government will say on one side that the landing price of PMS is 1,200 to 1,300. On the other side, it will say sell that same product for 897, but there is no subsidy. So you try to reconcile a lot of information that are coming from the government, from leadership, and it is difficult to reconcile them. You also see a situation in which government seems to be saying, look, we are in financial trouble. I know by virtue of being a finance expert that we are indeed in financial trouble. But the question is, the people cannot see how government officials are able to defer gratification in the midst of these financial troubles that we have found ourselves. The right thing would be that the people at the leadership level are also able to say, because we are in this financial trouble, this gratification, I will delay it a little bit. But we're not seeing much of that. The labor leader that spoke made some examples of those situations. We need to do better. The economy is indeed in trouble, but then the sacrifice must come from all of us to move things forward.
Mr. Olajide, the government has claimed that moving to market-based pricing it's going to be better in the long run, right? And they said that it will eventually lead to competition, which will drive prices down and improve service delivery. That's on one hand. I would like to ask if you think this is realistic, or if there's going to be a danger in terms of, the current price hikes. Could it lead to long-term instability, especially given Nigeria's reliance on imports for petroleum products? I want you to first of all address that, because we're coming to the second, the 6-point B question of this, the B part of this question.
In some parts of the world where the removal of subsidy from petroleum product has not been properly executed, it has been known to lead to troubles. I think Kazakhstan was one of those places. Some of the troubles that countries like Sri Lanka and the rest of them also went into, we knew how the issue of fuel triggered some of those problems. So it's a very sensitive matter. Even in our own country, we've seen that in the past. 2012 is it's an example of how that almost also led into trouble. So it's a potentially troublesome area, and we need to navigate it properly. The market forces that we're talking about, the foundation of the issue of going, subjecting this to market forces, the foundation in itself is transparency. Right now, transparency in that space is near zero.
Okay.
It has been like that for 50 years. In fact, since the establishment of that institution, whether you're talking of 1976, 2.8 billion naira that was said to be missing, or you're talking of the windfall of the Gulf War that nobody could accounted for, or you're talking of the subsidy payment of the Mr. Jonathan era, it has remained. Even in 1993 campaign by MK Abiola, he was talking about lack of accountability of the NNPC. So the foundation of people talking about market forces is that there should be transparency. It appears as if there is a conclusion already that Nigerians love lies and half-truth. Therefore, let us tell them these lies and half-truth, which we like. But I think it's a wrong perception. I think Nigerians you can't just assume that we cannot handle it. It is important to come out, be more transparent in how these dealings are, and solicit our support. Nigerians are not unreasonable. If we come, put the cards on the table, solicit the support of the people, it is possible that we will support you.
Okay,
but
then.
in a case in which you say landing is 1,200, sell it for 800, but there is no subsidy. Port Harcourt refinery will start working in April. It will be March. It will be July. It will be August. With all those things, do not speak well.
All right,
let
Mr.
us set the right foundation.
Thank you very much, sir. That B part of the question I'm going to refer to Ms. Oladipupo here in the studio with us. So let me come to you and ask you this very interesting question regarding the B side of the question. Dangote Refinery only just pushed out first products. We haven't gotten. I haven't seen the Claire Premium Motor Spirit.
Yeah, it's
myself.
waiting to be picked up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take that and start celebrating everywhere when I see it. But what are the implications of that hitting the market? Is that going to help in any way? Is that going to help the average man's pocket? Is the price of PMS going to come down? Are we looking? Is this a savior? I guess that's the question to ask.
Okay, so I'd like to take this very quickly, just because of time. The narrative has always been, even at the construction phase of the Dangote refinery, the narrative that was sold to the public is that, oh, Dangote refinery is going to be a savior by the time you start selling fuel. Fuel prices are going to come down. But in all honesty, I'm not sure that is realistic, because we have to take a very critical look at it. Dangote refinery, there's significant financial obligations that are attached to that refinery, and the price of fuel, it's not something that will be determined rather by domestic expectations. Rather, I think it will be determined by international market conditions. Talk about the price of crude is going to be a great determinant. Talk about Dangote as well, domestic debt servicing, return of investment to shareholders, of operational cost, and all of that are going to play a key factor in determining the price. So what we can expect that is realistic is that Dangote's refinery, the fuel, is going to bring stability in terms of availability.
Explain that stability.
In terms of availability.
Okay, so that's also dependent on NNPC's transparency and performance, in the sense that NNPC has the side of the deal to supply crude to Dangote. So if NNPC fulfills his own side of the deal, and there's transparency, there's super performance, then we can expect that Dangote supplying fuel can erase the scarcity, not really bringing down the price. So it all depends on NNPC feeling its own side of the deal.
Chai is the word, which is also a word for tea in the north, but chai in this case, exhaustion, exasperation.
But
chai indeed.
It's just too much. But Ilerioluwa Oladipupo, we want to say thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you. And also to yourself as well, Mr. Bola Tinubu, who is an economist and just helped us to look at this from all facets of it, from the economic point of view, also as well as the soaring cost of living in Nigeria as we continue to grapple with it. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much also, Mr. Benson Upa, for joining us earlier.